Why do you do the things that you do? Do you know the origin of it? Do you know the purpose? If you haven't heard this story, there was a woman who always cut the ends of her ham off. And so she asked her mother, Mom, when we were growing up, why did you always cut the ends off of the ham? And her mom said, I don't know. My mom always cut the ends off the ham. And so they called the grandmother. And the grandmother said, well, I cut the ends off my ham because my oven was too small. So all of those years, they were wasting ham, wasting food, and nobody ever cared to ask why. The daughter didn't care to ask why, but the granddaughter did. And that's when they actually got to the bottom of it. So imagine how many years had gone by, how much wasted ham, if you want to call that food, if how much ham or meat or food had gone to waste just because someone continuously did what they saw someone else do, but they never asked why.
This is supposed to be the skull of Adam, the first man. Remember, Yeshua was regarded as the second Adam. So the second Adam was crucified on the same spot where the first Adam was buried. That's why they call it Golgotha, the mountain of the skull. If you look at the disc behind their heads, anytime, see, that is an omnibus. That represents the sun. So remember, all of the Roman Empire, they were pagans, correct?
Yes.
So how did they believe the message of Yeshua? Because inside of this Greco-Roman theological fabrication of someone called Jesus, nobody could have been called Jesus 2,000 years ago. The J wasn't introduced into the English language until the 13th century. There was no Jordan, it was Jordan. There was no Jerusalem, it was Jerusalem. There was no Jacob, it was Jacob. Okay? So there was no John, it was Yochanan. All right? So we have to understand that in order for pagans to follow this so-called Christianity, they had to put pagan festivals inside of the religious tradition. They had to put. So they were already celebrating the birthday of Sol Invictus on December 25th before the birth of Yeshua. So now the Roman Catholics say, okay, let's establish Sabbath day on Sunday. At the Nicaea Conference in about 438 AD, they had that Nicaean Conference, and that's where they took the Sabbath off the Sabbath day and put it on Sunday, which was the day that they were worshiping the sun anyway. Constantine, who built this church, was the high priest of the religion called Zoroastrianism. Are we clear?
Yes.
So the next picture shows his body being laid on the slab and his body being prepared for burial with myrrh, frankincense, whatever. They say this is the slab that they put his body on. This slab came from Italy in the beginning of the 19th century. This is not the slab that they laid his body on.
They're all kneeling down over there.
So they putting olive oil on the stone, candles on the stone, they kiss the stone.
Wow.
All people from all over the world come.
This is not to demonize or to question anyone's beliefs. This is just to make you ask why. Why do we celebrate the birth of Christ on December the 25th? This is to make you ask why. What does Santa Claus have to do with Yeshua and the birth of the Christ, the birth of the Messiah? You have to think about why all of these things come into play together and what do they have to do with each other? Why were they merged? Why? Why is Easter, E-A-S-T-R, associated with the resurrection of the Christ? What do they have to do with each other? This is just, again, to make you ask why. Why do we associate Easter bunnies and eggs with Yeshua and the birth of Christ? This question is directed to my brothers and sisters. Why do we celebrate Independence Day, the independence of the United States? Were we independent and free on that day? Just asking why. Why? Why do we celebrate Thanksgiving? For some of us, it is a oral tradition or even a known fact that we have Native American or indigenous blood running through our veins. So why do we celebrate Thanksgiving? Again, not demonizing anyone or condemning anyone for celebrating, just asking why. Why? Why, if you are a believer, and again, I am not condemning. I'm not saying anybody is a sinner for doing anything, doing this or that, or celebrating this way, or celebrating that way. I'm just asking people to ask themselves why, just to understand why you do what it is that you do. Why do we celebrate New Year's in the dead of winter when the Bible says that the new year begins in the spring, when things begin to bud, when things begin to grow and sprout? Why do we do this? Who told us this is the new year? Are we doing it just because the majority does it? It's the way that things are done wherever we live? So again, the purpose of this video was just for us to ask ourselves why we do the things that we do, just out of the traditions of the people that have come before us. And we don't have a profound or a deeper understanding, and we don't even go and try to seek a different or deeper understanding of why we're doing what we're doing. We tell our children when they are so impressionable and young that a big fat man is going to come down a chimney that most of us don't even have, to bring them gifts for being good or bad, when their parents work very hard to provide those gifts. And then we turn around and tell children not to lie and tell them to always tell the truth. So which one is it that we want? But again, this video is just to really dig into the reason why we do the things that we do. There's so many things that we do just because of the culture that we live in. Our, cultural differences, the different backgrounds of people that actually live here that have been merged. And that's what has actually happened in a lot of these holidays and festivals and celebrations, is that it's just a hodgepodge of things that have been merged together. And we don't get the profound or the original meaning of these things and go back to why it is that they were, started in the first place, and why we're continuing to do them, and why we do them the way that we actually do. So if you are a believer, this is also to urge you to go and look into not holidays, but go and look into holy days and see if any of them coincide with what it is that you actually celebrate. Are you celebrating any of the ones that are actually biblical, or are you just celebrating the ones that are traditional according to what people do where you actually live? So that's all. That's just a challenge for people, just to go and dig a little deeper, dig a little bit. I know this is going to probably step on some toes because people don't fully listen to understand. People just listen to have a response. But again, like I said, this is just to make you ask why. Why? Another thing is, why do you put candles on birthday cakes? And I bet that if you go and dig a little bit more about that, you'll figure out why you do that as well. So, once we figure out why, hopefully, when we know better, we do better. It will also lighten the load in life, I think, a little bit more when people know why they're doing what they're doing, because maybe you'll stop doing it. It'll save you a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of stress and strife if you just understand that a lot of the things that you do aren't serving you. They aren't actually even, compatible with what it is you say your core beliefs are. So, again, this is just a little challenge to go and ask yourself why. And I want you all to be blessed.